So knowledge is the facts, the information, and the experience learned in a particular activity or area of study. So when you gain knowledge, it's not just in your head, it also includes the experience you have, because one of the best educators is experience. So it includes all that, how you've learned about this thing, this activity, or this area of study. Then there's the actual practice, the technique, steps and technique to be effective in that certain activity. So that's what we mean by skills. Whatever you can add into the actual practice of this thing that you are talented in. Then we have strength, which is the goal. It's the combining of the talent, the knowledge, and the skill with consistent high performance over time. So that's how they're defining a strength. There's consistent high performance over time. Then you know you have a strength. So the most common way a strength is first recognized, and perhaps the most fundamental place of a birthplace of a strength, is the talent. Whereas we can usually add knowledge and skill by spending enough time and working hard at practice, we can add knowledge and skill to a talent, but the other way around is much more difficult. If you learn something and you practice at it, but you don't have it, it's harder to add natural talent to that. So most strengths that we have begin because we're just kind of made to be or do that thing. All right. So how do we recognize talents? If most of them begin that way, how will you recognize a talent? How do we usually identify a naturally recurring pattern? Well, say in a child. One of the first ways is to observe what they do instinctively. So, what is their spontaneous reaction? So like this child here sees a wall and needs to climb it. When you look at your own spontaneous reaction towards something, you're able to do it. Or even last night, when you looked at that thing, you're able to just kind of right away figure out, okay, we need to do this because by the time we get here, it needs to be at an angle or whatever. Like you can look at that and you can figure that out real quick. So there's a natural ability that way, and you can see it in your spontaneous reaction. So some kids just love to climb. They see a tree or they see a wall and they just got to climb it. There's an instinctive. Then there's this deep longing, yearnings formed as powerful connections in a person's brain and keeps calling out to them. It's a tangible, deep longing. Okay, so there's something, you just want to do this, you just got to do it. If you have something that you love doing, that's an indication that it may be a talent that could become a strength for you. So back to the child can't help but climb. Doesn't think much of the risk, just sees that wall and has to jump on it and not just climb, but has to climb all the way to the top. So there's this longing, this desire. Then they learn quickly. Learning something rapidly, seemingly without much effort, is a clue to an underlying talent. So when you spontaneously want to do something, and then there's a deep longing to do it, and you learn quickly how to get better at it, those may be indications that that that's a talent. So for the child, people are amazed at how the child just knows how to place his feet and ascend this structure. They just seem to know how to climb that way. Okay, and then experience fulfillment. When you feel fulfilled, when you do something that comes out of a genuine talent, there's that deep sense of fulfillment that you wanted to do it, you wanted to get into that, and now you have, and you're fulfilled by it. And that which always isn't always the case. Sometimes you try something and it just doesn't work for you. You don't get any joy out of it or whatever. Maybe you do it because you have to or whatever. But when this kid climbs that wall, and he's the happiest when he's on top of the wall, and you can just see it in him. How have you known? Have you known people who have seemed to have a talent but haven't done much with it? Do you know people who you can see a talent in them, but then they haven't done much with it? So they haven't gone through to pursue the longing or learned about it and haven't really experienced the fulfillment of it. Or maybe they missed the experience, the fulfillment of it, which meant they had the talent, but they didn't really want to pursue it. And so it didn't become a strength of theirs. If that makes sense. What's the difference when something is a talent or a strength? When you have a talent, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a strength of yours. It needs work. Otherwise, it's just something cool that you can do. You can climb a wall, or, there's a lot of good hockey players out there who didn't pursue it and make it, a strength. I grew up in Red Deer, or spent high school years there anyway. So I played with the Sutter brothers, if any of you know who they are. Also played with, or went to school with the Moeller brothers, and Randy Moeller was an NHL player for many years. But he had an older brother who was actually a much better hockey player than him. And they played together in the same team when they were like 16, 17. And Mike, I was closer to him. He always got the awards and always did better, but it was a natural talent. And he didn't really work on it much. He just was able to do it. And he was much better. Randy, on the other hand, was a little bigger, but he had all the drive in the world. Like, he had the longing. He was happiest when he was on the ice. And Mike just wasn't like that. So Mike never made the NHL. Randy played in the NHL for a long time. And it wasn't because Randy was better. It was just he pursued it to make it a lifelong strength of his. And for Mike, he went on to other things. So when a talent becomes a strength, it's because they've worked on it and added some things. So when you have a talent that you want to make a strength, one of the things you add is knowledge. So get knowledge, whether it's facts or information or experience. So if you have something that you think you're good at, then volunteer somewhere or get a job or get something where you can practice this and learn more about it, or a mentor who actually you can see that that's one of their strengths and they've worked hard at it. And so spend time learning from them and getting knowledge from them and experience from them. then the other thing is adding the skill to it. Skill is the practice and the technique to the talent, which then makes it a strength. Over time, the three combine to make a true strength. So that's kind of what we're suggesting and presenting to you, that if there is something that you feel that you've always been good at, something you've always wanted to do, you always could do, consider adding some knowledge, some skill to make that a true strength. Now, when you did your assessment, remember that it actually is a talent assessment. Whether these things are actual strengths is up to you and how you develop them or how you will develop them. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Did you see does anyone have the strength of wooing? Woo? No, it's actually in there. It's woo. The strength of wooing. Yep. You're able to rally people, bring people close to you. You woo them. Okay? Your personality and everything is just attractive to you. People just swarm you. Anybody like that here? No wooers?
No, this can all go away.
The anti-wooer? Okay, so let's look at wooing. Okay? So you've developed this strength, but to develop it, you had to start with a talent. So woo is a person who makes friends easily. Okay, we know people like that, right? There's some people that are just annoyingly friendly and people just seem to like them. So they probably have the talent of woo. So what could you do to this if you wanted to develop it as a strength of yours, something that you became known for, something that maybe even God could use and that could help your business or whatever? What's a place, something of knowledge that you could add? Any ideas?
You would like figure out how to combine business with wooing.
A business with wooing?
You go to a college of wooing or a business college of wooing.
I haven't heard of one, but of course, you could take a course on psychology, how people think, how people behave. So you could actually take a course on behavior, how people are attracted to things. I picked up a book one time. It's called The Tipping Point, and it was about how ideas reach a point where they tip, and then they generate fruit just naturally by themselves. So it's an idea that struggles and struggles and then it tips over to where now it seems to have a life of its own. So that may not be of interest to you, but for me, it's always been kind of thing, why does certain things catch on? Why do certain ideas catch on? And the guy who invented Zoom, he didn't know there'd be a pandemic that would make him a zillionaire. He had an idea. He's probably had some sort of talent that he could do something. So he had an idea, so he pursued it. He probably took a course or two to figure out how to do this. And then he practiced. Zoom wasn't his first idea, wasn't his first thing. But then he found out how to do this and put it together. And well, now he's, right up there with Bill and all the other guys. So how does something like that happen? So anyways, that's.
So John, I would think another way would be to become aware that there is a dark side to your brain talent or strength.
Hmm.
Become aware, self-aware that if I go down there, it actually starts to diminish the effectiveness of this one. So become self-aware of the natural shadow side.
Okay. Shadow to wooing.
So that'd be a little bit of knowledge, okay, a little bit of research about this particular gift.
Hmm.
How can it be good and how can it actually become a shadow?
Right.
Part of it has got to be some kind of direction. Right? This is a strange example to me, but the woo, what makes it, what transforms it, or what differentiates the strength of woo from the talent of woo?
Right.
It's just that to make friends even better?
Right.
Or is there some direction to it? Is it
Yeah.
put towards organizing something or running a business or
Right.
leading a team or something like that? It almost has to be a direction
Right.
identified.
So that would be part of that knowledge, right? Is actually getting a vision for how this could happen. So what this could do. So you said like building a team. Well, a person who is able to get along well with others and make friends easily, he'd be a great team builder, it would seem. So if he added some knowledge of that, of where he was going with that, but then took, a course of how to build teams and all that sort of stuff, then that would be adding to this so that he becomes kind of an expert on how to build teams, all coming out of this simple talent.
And he may or may not know how to build a team, because oftentimes building a team, you want different types of people on your group, right? You don't want just all your friends.
Right.
You actually have to have opposite of friends, which is not enemies.
Yeah.
So he may just put on a whole whack of people in his team and that they're not.
Right. But if he's going to have a strength, somewhere he has to learn that it can't just be all his friends.
No.
Right?
Typically,
He has to be able to build some sort of relationship, even with the person that's opposite to him.
from what I understand with Woo, they're typical people who, because it's actually winning others over, which is why they made it the word Woo. They're typically people who are salesmen. Your salesmen are your Woo people.
And about politicians.
So when we think of Woo, it's people, because they want to be able to hone in, when are you with my good friend and you're going to buy whatever.
Right. But they need to be able to do that
But
with all kinds of people, even people that aren't like them.
Yeah, that reminds me of a salesman that I knew, and I was trying to pay him a compliment one day, and I said, Helmut, you could smell snow to Eskimos, and he took great offense to it,
No,
because he was not selling useless things to people that don't need it.
right,
Like his value was he was bringing solutions to people that need it, and the sales process is that, it's not
Right.
the other thing. So that's to that shadow that you were talking about. You could, well, I'm good at wooing people, so I can sell useless garbage to whoever. That would be a bad way to go, but.
Yeah, and I also want to just pick up on your comment earlier, Will. What's the difference between talent and strength? And it would be, a strength is taking a natural talent and applying it to productive ends. So you can have someone who's just naturally friendly, they just friends everybody, but they don't actually do anything with that. They're just friends, you just hang out. So it's a talent. But if they were to develop a strength, they need to say, well, then how do I apply that ability into something productive? How do I become a good salesman? How do I become a good politician that rallies people, or a good team leader? Then they would have to add knowledge and skill to do that.
Right.
Because without knowledge and skill, a talent alone is not that good.
And we're not against talents.
Right.
People, it's just like Mike. He didn't want to be a professional hockey player, and that's fine. He was always talented, but it's up to him whether it became a strength or not.
Yeah.
So,
If we substituted the language gift, would that, where would that fit?
if we brought gift into here,
Not giftedness or gift.
well, I think that would fit same with talent, right? Because some people are gifted, but if they don't do anything to use that gift, then it won't be productive. And so, I mean, even scripturally, the story of the talents, right?
Yeah.
You can bury it, or you can use it and multiply it. Then if you bury it, then it's just talent that you have.
Yeah.
It's okay. But if you develop it into a strength, then you're multiplying it. You're making it productive. So, sorry, Henrik wanted to say.
Well, I just trying to compare to my uncle. He's definitely not a salesman, but I think he could be a woo. But I would say he gets involved in a lot of things.
Yeah.
So he's a little older than me. He's my uncle, my wife's side. But anyways, but that's how I see it. So I think he's got the talent. He's got the strength, and now he's getting into lots of in the church, lots. What do you call it? Groups and organizations, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's where the skill comes in, I think, after a while.
Yeah.
So, because that's I think how that all works.
Yeah.
On his end.
So this actually is a good picture of parenting, helping ourselves look at our kids and see what do they have as natural talents, and what do we think they could do with that, and kind of guiding them that direction. And that actually matches that famous proverb that says, train up a child in the way they should go. And when they're old, they will not depart from it.
Mm.
And we have taken that as, we need to tell people what I want them to do. But actually the Hebrew is, train them up in the natural bent they already have. And when they're old, they won't depart from that. That'll be a lifelong
Be part of it.
strength.
Yeah.
And so this is why parenting cannot be the same for every child. You cannot do the same thing with each one. It's got to be customized to this.
Yeah.
Should have known.
How they're wired.
Recently, my brother did a little presentation, 2 or 3 hour presentation for a small group of people that are all in a helping role. So they're a mix of counselors, psychologists, and kind of like in their church, they reach out to people who are like considering abortion, things like that. So they're just kind of helper people. And the problem they brought forward as a group with each other was, I really want to help people, but I don't feel like it's working. I feel like I really want to try. I really want to connect with people, support them where they need it, and be there from a Christian. They were all Christians, but I feel like everybody was sort of in consensus that it wasn't working. There was something missing for them in many of the relationships they were involved in. And I don't know why, but they asked my brother to talk about that.
Mm.
And he's just finishing his master's degree in psychology, and for some reason he got volunteered or whatever. So I went there to just kind of support him, and just because it was an Airdrie. And it was good for me because one of the things that in my purpose is I really believe in attachment. So like I really want to be attached. I want to support me being attached to God and to empower others to do the same. And that being in my purpose, but I too will often feel like I'm missing the mark.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of that is not the dark side of achievement for me. Achievement is a big
Okay.
value that came out.
So, sorry, Rebecca. So you may not actually be missing the mark, but you feel like you are?
Yeah.
Is that the thing?
I think everybody had that sense that,
Hmm.
I don't know how to verbalize it, because, yeah, it was sort of like, I'm here to help, but I don't feel like I'm meeting the need that's there, or people are not having success after interacting with me in the way that they were hoping to. And I think that meant different things for everybody that was there. But one of the things that came out of it for me, and it was like considering that shadow side of my values and my talents, is that, yeah, I'm a doer and I really like doing, and I get so busy doing, and I'm just like lists here and there, and I got this project here, that project there, and I get too many things rolling, and yet I like have it in me that I should be a doer. I was a 4-H kid for 9 years, so I should be a doer. And so how do I manage that? And the thing that came out for me was, if I'm truly attached to God, He will do it through me. And that for me has to be through prayer. Like I feel like He's calling me to really more actively. I love to engage young children, and I am good at it. And so when I do that though, and I'm doing it to empower parents to do it, how do I not like come in and like make them feel like there's no way they could do that? And so I honestly feel like in every situation it's unique, and I have to be praying through that and just being more connected to God in every situation, so that I say the right things and I do the right things, not just because I am always really good at engaging little kids.
Right.
So,
So how would you see that fit into here? Is it, because, yeah, there's the overlay, there's a layer over this, which is God's will, which is prayer and that, right? Where you have a talent and you can develop the strength, but if God's going to really use it, he has to be a part of the acquiring of the knowledge and the right skill to make it the right strength, right? So there is a submission to God when you want to develop something that you have, recognizing that he put it there in the first place.
yeah, exactly. And I think I so easily forget that it is all from Him.
Yeah.
I think, I'm resourceful. I can do this. I can do that. I love coming up with new ideas and things like that. And then I forget. Well, maybe He had planted a seed already, and I need to I need to pull on the brakes a little bit more and be more observant and listen to Him more. And for me, actually, prayer is that I'm listening to Him more. I often can say things in desire for others, that things go well and that they have good health, and that they, I can always come up with the supplication, but am I listening enough? And I guess that's that submitting, and that's the paradigm shift for me. It's like, wait a minute. Is what are the parents bringing to the situation already? How can I point that out to them? How can I say, you're already doing this really well?
Right.
And then bridging.
Well, that's good to bring into this. Is almost another square or a layer over top of this is submission, because God's the one who planted it, and He's the one who will perfect it, and that comes through submission to Him. That's good.
Submission, but I'll bring it back down to the individual level here. It's so easy to see issues in other people and how they approach it. So I'll give an example from somebody else. I'm still struggling with myself. But no, from parenting, bringing up children, so you recognize talents, just things that God has given to the kids, and then there's strengths, and you might even want recognize that there's a desire to do something more with this talent. But there's a couple of things that are obstacles, and they're just normal. One is, I see it in my children mostly, is there's hard work needs to be done
Yeah.
between talent and strength to gain knowledge and to become proficient.
Yeah.
And it's just grit. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And you know, stick-to-itiveness, whatever you want to call it. And then the other thing is very strange to me, but as you go from, you have a talent and it's like a mystery, you know, I'm really good at this. I have hardly any effort and I'm good at it. And then as you go towards something that's more concrete and has more definition to it, it's almost like there's some mystery being removed. It's like as you become, this is becoming, what's this mysterious thing I'm good at music or mathematics or whatever. And then I realize, oh, this is a lot of grind to get to where I need to go, and it almost loses its luster. Does anybody else have that experience? Where and it's almost like a resistance. As you get closer, you go, like there's this tipping point you talked about.
Yeah.
There's a hill to climb before you get to that tipping point.
Yeah.
And I see that in my children.
Yeah.
And you know, in quiet moments, I see it in myself as well.
Right.
I always think too, it's Satan trying to attack you because you're gonna be free to serve God with your strength. And he's like, not sure. I don't think I don't want you there, right? So for me, I often feel like, God, just, you know, remove this obstacle from me that's holding me back, because I feel like once I get there, there will be a sense where I can freely serve God with that strength.
Yeah.
Or that part of that strength, whatever that is, because you should always be added knowledge and skill to continue
Yeah.
with that strength, right?
Well, yeah, that's good, guys, because there is a zone in the middle, right? And that's what knowledge and skill and hard work and all that are. So there's the talent where, you know, as a 6-year-old, Connor McDavid could skate and he could play, you know, and it was just fun. Well, now he's the best in the world. What was in between? A whole lot of hard work and hours and hours and hours. So I imagine there's times where he just wanted to quit because it wasn't fun anymore. But he had to push through that in order to get here, right? Otherwise, he would have just been a real talented, you know, the guy that everybody wants on the rec hockey league, because, you know, he could do great things. But he would never have become there without the talent, without the skill and practice.
Earlier in the course, somebody said, we must all suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret.
Yeah,
I don't know
good.
where that came from, but.
Yeah, no, that was brilliant. I think I said that. Read it somewhere. No, I don't know. But I know the quote. I just can't place where that would be from.
Yeah, I quoted it, but I don't remember where I read it.
And discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So that's what you face, right? You can have a talent, and if you do not put in the knowledge, skill, and hard work and submission and prayer and all that to make it a strength, will you have regret that you didn't do that? Yeah, those are good thoughts. And we each get to decide that. We each get to decide. This process of taking a talent and adding knowledge, experience, skill, practice, technique, hard work, prayer, and building a strength is what the strengths movement is about. And so I just want to talk to you about that for a minute. The strengths movement was born out of 25 years of research with 101 companies in 63 countries and included over 1.7 million people. So that's the research they did to come up with that assessment and with the Strengths Finder material. 25 years, 100 companies, 63 countries, 1.7 million people. From that research, they learned two things. One was that everyone, or two flaws, they learned two things which were flaws, that everyone can become competent in anything. So that is a myth. Not everyone can become competent in anything. And then the other flaw that they recognized was your greatest room for growth is shoring up your weakness. So they believe those were false statements. You cannot become competent at everything. And your greatest growth is not in the area of your weakness, but actually maximizing your strength. So instead they asked, what might be possible if this belief was overturned and the priority became one in which the strength of the individual was uncovered and celebrated? So in other words, focus on your strengths. Have you ever heard of I'm not sure what they call it, but it's a bucket principle. And the buckets, they used to be made with staves and then wire around it, right? And so the strength of the bucket depended on the lowest of the sections, because it can only carry as much as, and so they use that to say, you need to build up your lowest, your weakness, bring that up so that overall you can be stronger. And these guys started saying, no, I don't think that's true. I don't think it is like a bucket. They're saying, focus on your strengths and maximize that. Then you'll begin fulfilling more of your purpose. Rather than focusing on what you're not, focus on what you are and what you have, like a talent. Focus on that. Build it into a strength. And then you'll have more, you'll be more equipped to fulfill your purpose, your personal purpose. That gained a lot of traction quickly, that idea. And finding strengths became the preferred way of empowering people rather than reversing weaknesses. What do you think? Does that make sense? How this idea of focusing on your weakness and trying to strengthen your weakness. Have you been there? Done that? Yeah?
Spent a lifetime. Yeah, and it makes so much sense, this, but it's almost opposite to how I have almost lived my life, in the sense of I recognize certain weaknesses in my own ability.
Right.
For instance, communicating to groups of people, writing properly, and I spent a lot of time trying to get better at those two things. And now I would say I'm competent, but not great.
Right.
Where my talents, I attract them. Well, I'm good at that already, so
Right.
I shouldn't need to spend my time there. And so, yeah, that's like a punch in the gut, actually. Thanks a lot,
Glad we could help.
My husband Dan, I think I can share this. When he was at his last job, he was a manager, he was a machinist there, and then he became a manager.
Let me just pause there. He became a manager because what do we always do? We take the people who are good at their job and we say, wow, you would make a great manager. So you take Dan, who's great with his hands and great at doing what he's doing, and you put him in charge of people.
He had said no 3 times. But what was interesting is his boss were old school people, really great people, but the business was running well, why you bother changing it? They often got him into trouble for fixing guys' mistakes. So the guys would make a mistake and they didn't care, he cared. So, and he would have to deal with the customer, so he would be caught in the shop fixing the mistake of these guys so that the part could be presented to them. And it was when I was seeing about the weaknesses, because they saw it as a weakness, that he would, why don't you just get that guy to fix his mistake? He would be like, I'm getting into trouble all the time for fixing up, making something. And so this is why when he came up with his strengths, I was like, yes, that is why you get into trouble doing stuff. So what somebody might think as a weakness in other people is, and you're frustrated with it, is actually could be their strength. So how you perceive, Dan being in the shop with his hands, getting caught doing things. They actually outright said, dude, we do not want to catch you in the shop again.
Yeah.
So it was a struggle for him because he was like,
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, and so talk about the education system, public education system, and how that relates to this, right? You take a kid who's not good at mathematics.
And you pass them anyways.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But who's great with his hands, he can build stuff and all that. But you keep hammering in the mathematics to him because that's a weakness of his. And so it's a common mindset that for some reason we have, that this is trying to turn it upside down. And it's been going for a little while now. So I think we are starting to see some changes that way, where people are looking more at maximizing and empowerment rather than, trying to fix what's wrong with them. Do you see that?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Because if the government is providing the service, they want children to fit in boxes.
Yeah.
And because they have limited funds, and they want to be able to budget and quantify, and so it's really difficult to teach to strengths or individual learning styles if you start with a budget, because it's closed-ended rather than open-ended. And I think the will is there to see the strengths in children and build them up in education, but I think in practicality, it'll always trickle down to what are their problems, how do we fix those problems?
Right. We're seeing this. I think the church has some of this going on too, to where in our discipleship programs, we believe we know what people should pay attention to and be good at, and so we try to get them to do that rather than we start with positions, and then we try to find people to fit the positions rather than start with the person and what they're good at, and then let's start a ministry around that. If you have a couple people that are good at something, they have strength at something, then let's put energy and money around that so that we maximize their strengths, rather than we've always had this, we need to keep having this, nobody wants to do it, but they should. And so let's find someone that will do it.
I feel like this is sort of more applicable to ministry, this big way of thinking.
Okay.
Whereas, like, for example, for me, I used to be an emergency nurse for years, and then I realized I had this weak area in labor and delivery, so then I switched to get stronger so that I can be more of a comprehensive nurse. So I feel like, yeah, I think maybe it's different.
Okay.
It more applies to ministry.
So you feel that by doing that, you're becoming more comprehensive or more rounded of a nurse and what you're able to do, provide. So what would you think, Tennis, if that was the case for a while, but then you worked in the area that you feel your strengths really are in, would you think the sense of fulfillment and joy in doing your job would go up?
You know what?
If you felt that you were actually in the department or in the area that you feel your strengths were in.
I don't know, because like, there's so many different parts of like being a nurse, like,
Yeah.
there's so many parts, moving parts, like there's communication, the interpersonal stuff, there's the skill, like the hands-on technical skill, like it's just so varied.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting enjoyment in, say, one area, you're gonna get it somewhere else, like in interpersonal or whatever,
Okay.
I think.
Because I think typically you're empowered. There's more enjoyment in working out of your strengths
Right.
than when you're working in your weaknesses and have to compensate.
Yeah.
Actually, be talking about that more next encounter with something called leading from your strengths, because it's empowering. You're not drained.
I think it's a more efficient use of
Right.
talent if you're operating at your strengths.
Right.
There's a little bit of a mind shift too. I've definitely worked on weaknesses, but it was more character than it was talent. So one is,
Okay.
talent is more physical in my mind, right? So it's a tactile, I am good, I am talented at these things. Whereas weaknesses in my character, focusing on that has made me a better leader operating in what I'm talented in. So I think it's a little bit confusing. I had to read this a few times
Right.
because I was like, well, no, I've been working on my weaknesses, but I realized the differentiation is one is weakness in character, which is an internal thing, and one is talent, which is a physical aptitude thing. So I wouldn't work on a weakness of talent. I work on my weakness individually in my character.
Right.
So differentiating
So-
that, I would agree with that statement.
Okay.
If I didn't have that delineation, I would automatically, when I read that, I disagreed with it.
Hmm.
I'm like, no. But then it just took me a few minutes to break it out.
Yeah.
But then another way to look at it is, if you look at the journey from talent to a strength as being, in some way at least, putting some focus on that talent, some direction. Just, and there's that hard work that has to happen between those two states. Some of that hard work might be shoring up your weakness. For instance, I have a talent for mathematics. I'm going to apply that to engineering. To be an engineer, I need to be able to communicate. That's not mathematics, but as part of that journey, right, to add some focus and direction, there's other things that you're going to have to pull into it. So it's not like,
Right.
it doesn't live on its own, like your talent. There's other things that might be character things that need to be cleared up to be able to do what you want, or it could be other physical skills that are not your talent. In fact, you're not very good at it, but they're complementary to where you want to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
It's not either or, right?
Right.
It's that, if the majority of the focus is on your weakness, it's going to drain you. Mind you, there are times where that submission part is draining. You're like on your knees, there's nothing else I can do here. I have to give up this pattern or behavior of mine, or I have to change my paradigm entirely because I keep thinking this way, I keep doing this, and it's messing me up. So I have to let it go. So sometimes getting to that point it is important to just focus on that. But I don't think it's saying that you don't do both. Like it's saying it's a flaw, but it's a flaw because it's an assumption of where all the focus should be.
Right.
But it's not saying you shouldn't work on the weaknesses.
Right. Well, and it's a perspective on when you strengthen a weakness, if it's just to try and be strong at that weakness, then that's going to take a lot of energy and time. But if you're strengthening that weakness in order that to make it a part of a strength, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it can become part of the overall purpose of I'm going to become stronger at this. So if you have the gift, or if you have the talent of wooing, but you hate public communication, well, then that may be an area that you want to strengthen, because overall you want a strength of being able to build teams. Out of your wooing talent, you want to build team. Well, to do that, you have to learn how to communicate better or whatever.
Because you're addressing the barrier.
Right.
To you operating fully in your strength.
Right. Yeah.
So the focus is still on the strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's where the focus is. Yeah. And that's the differentiation. Is it used to be focused on the weakness, so you don't suck at this so badly. But the focus now is on the strength, and you're going through a process to be strong at this. And sometimes that means, working on certain things that you're not really particularly strong at. Yeah.
A lot of the workforce are working in areas or jobs that they're maybe not, it doesn't breathe life into them. It's not what they're gifted or talented for. But they don't have many options.
Yeah.
Because they have to work and support their family, pay the mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. But in the ideal world, if we could give all of our employees these strengths tests and then reorganize them all accordingly, that would be a great way to do that. You would probably get a lot more productivity from it. But I just don't know how you get there.
I think it's got to be an individual journey though, because if we just, there probably are better systems out there. Like, I think I just recently heard that maybe Alberta is considering the German apprenticeship model of, how they have two paths. After grade 9, you choose either apprenticeship or academics. Anyway, I'm not sure if that's, I read a quick article about it, but like our youngest son is doing a heavy laboring job for 8 hours a day right now. And he has an amazing musical talent. And he wants to explore that, but he doesn't know what that looks like entirely. So he wants to make money right now. And he's really offended a lot of the 30 to 40-year-olds that are working there doing the same job as him, because they look at him and they go, what are you doing here? Like, you should go to university. Why are you here? And like, get mad at him. And he comes home and he's like, they're mad at me because I'm not planning on, going to university. And I think he's worn them down because he's made them laugh at different things, because he's got a really wicked sense of humor. And so they're okay with him being around because they know he is smart and he'll come up with something eventually and not do this for the rest of his life. But it's amazing. He'll come home and he'll be like, they're really mad at me. My supervisor's really mad at me that I'm doing this job. But it's so good for him because he'll never want to do it again. But it's letting him buy all the droopy clothes that he wants.
All right. Any other comments before we move on here?
I just want to think about this, when we think of the strengths that we were doing here, when we did the test, it was like, it was asking you how you naturally thought. It wasn't necessarily like, do you think you have a gift in this area? It was more like, do you have this gift? Like, does this naturally occur to you? Do you find yourself doing this? So I don't even think, like, when we found out what our, it's that we call strengths or talents, we found that out. It was more, for me at least, it was more, these are now words that have been put down on paper that I think I innately knew I had them.
Mhm.
just in the pads of paperwork that said, this is who you are.
Right.
Now it's up to me to do the hard work of saying, how do I want to use that? So if I'm in a job that I really don't like, and trust me, I don't always like cleaning the floors of the house, in the bathrooms, but then I have to do that because I have to, and then, but I can use my in the evening or in other areas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
yes,
the strengths doesn't always have to enter into your career.
Yeah.
Your career hopefully can use your strengths. I think that will be energizing for you. If your career embodies your strengths. But you can use your strengths outside of your job as well. And certainly in the first half of life, you pretty much always have to do that because you're just looking for any job, right? Unless you come out of university and you can find the job that you studied for and all that. But then there's kids that go to university and come out and they're in an area that they don't enjoy. They discovered they really don't enjoy this, and maybe they don't even have a strength in it, but it's what they've done. And so we're just saying in the second half, you have more choices. You can actually live differently, and you can pursue some of these things more effectively than what you could before.
That's good news.
Yeah, it is good news. It is good news. And I understand what you're saying, Steve. I would say that sometimes a strength character can be in character that you can develop that. You can be you can have a natural character, and you can just make a decision that actually I want to develop that so that it really becomes a strength of mine, and it can be a character issue. And also gifts tends too. One of my journeys in this last little while has been in the area of certain giftings, and once I realized that I have a leaning towards a certain gift, it was kind of a talent, and it made sense to me, but I had never thought of it in that way before. So then I decided I want to develop that. So then I picked up some books that talk about that gift. And I started practicing it with people and exploring, what does this gift look like? And so I began practicing it on certain people. Some of that turned out well, some of that didn't. But I learned through it, and I want to become strong in this natural gifting that God's given me. But it takes intentional work, but also submission and all that, right? All that, it's the tension. We submit, and yet we work hard. There's a tension in developing all that. The Strengths Finder thing, they originally actually thought of calling it Talent Finder instead of Strengths Finder, and because they're clear when you read the book that their intention was to help people identify natural talents. So Jolene, that's why they asked those questions the way they did, because they want to help you identify some natural talents that you have. Whether it becomes a strength is up to you. And then they go through, here are some ways that you can develop your talents into strengths if you choose to do that. Can a talent become a strength just on its own without any work? Maybe, but you probably are at least using that talent every day in order for it to become a strength, even without being intentional about it. But what we're saying, what we're challenging with you with here, is that you have the opportunity now to take some things, some talents that you haven't really worked on, and actually work on and turn them into strengths for the second half, because we're all about flourishing. If you want to flourish, then develop some more strengths, or develop the strengths that you have.
So question.
Yep.
Is the pushback that we're giving on this because of our generation?
I don't know. Maybe some of it has to do with the idea of the mindset we've always had, where we have to strengthen weaknesses.
I think,
What do you think?
I think, and I don't know how this works for everyone, but I think what we were talking about last night in terms of what's happening globally and historically right now and the signs of the times and stuff, I think there's an accumulation of, for lack of a better word, trauma. And I think God's not happy about it. And we're getting pushed back because of that dynamic. I think, I don't know, Colin said something, I don't know exactly to what extent he meant it, but, or not that he didn't mean it, but just what it means is, the phase of the wrath of God. And I feel like God's getting not happy with things. And I think that pushback is our resistance to it, his wrath, and that it's coming.
When you are operating out of your strengths, there are certain things that you're going to think and feel. And so we want to identify some of this. A healthy and productive second half will mean spending more time in the areas of our strength. And I think we all really want that. Now our careers, some of us may have careers that we don't actually get to practice our strengths, but hopefully you can find ways even within your career that you're able to practice your strengths and develop them and use them. And I hope, but this isn't always the case, if you work for someone, I hope they can recognize that and they have enough leadership that they can recognize that and allow you to develop those and flourish within their company or whatever, wherever you're working. But when you do, when I'm doing an activity that strengthens me, here's what I'm thinking. I can't wait to start. This is fun. I could do this forever. This is my calling. This is perfect for me. When you're doing an activity that weakens you, you're thinking, I hate it when I have to do this. Will this ever end? This is going to take forever. Thank goodness this is nearly over. Can I sit this one out? So maybe in different task activities, we've had those different kinds of thoughts as we have to face them. That indicates whether you're operating in your strengths or not. So when I'm doing an activity that strengthens me, I'm feeling powerful, passionate, euphoric, enthusiastic, natural, authentic, smooth, and confident. When I'm not, I'm frustrated, I'm fragmented, disjointed, awkward, drained, despondent, bored, and distracted. Have you felt those? In different ways, right? I felt both of those in different places. I want to find a way to do more of this, learn more about this, find more models and people I can learn from, look for people that are really good at it. And so I can be mentored by them. On the other hand, I want to avoid doing this again. I want to get a new person to do it. I want to put it on my to-do list, but ignore it. I want to do anything else but this thing. And I've been in jobs where I've had both of those, but not now, because I think I've had choices now. And so I often will tell people I'm in two sweet spots right now with what we're doing with the house church thing and with Crest. I get to use my strengths and be productive in the areas that energize me. And the more we can do that, the more we will flourish and have a sense of flourishing, which is what we all came here wanting. We want more of that. And so what we're saying is, if you want more of a sense of flourishing, this will be part of it. Find ways that you can operate in your strengths, a talent that you can develop into a strength, and a way that you can operate in that. Any other comments?
Well, I guess for me, you know, it really describes counsel, you know,
It describes what?
counsel,
His church council.
yeah,
Oh,
right?
So which half of it?
Well, well, that's just it, like most people are on that side, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, but for me too, but once you're in it, I mean, it's still that way, but you know, it feels good to be in as well. Like, I still think the Spirit guides you and everything, but it's, yeah, I don't know.
Do you like it mostly? Do you like it mostly?
No, I would say, well, I would say the first couple times I went in, I think I was pretty good. But then it becomes, now like they asked me the other day too, and I said, no, I'm not a politician. So, you know, like, so I think that maybe has something to do with it, you know? I don't know, but I know you struggle with that quite a bit, but I think that's why I'm saying that, like, you know, it's.
so one of the things we did was, there was a church board in two of the smaller churches that pastored. There was a church board who basically kind of ran everything. And it was, everyone mostly fell to the left, to the right, about what was happening. So then we came up with an idea, what if the church board only met just to take care of what needs to happen legally? And what if we actually formed teams to do the other stuff, and people joined those teams that actually were strengthened and gifted to work on that team? That way the board does what it has to do. And if people know this isn't a lifetime commitment that I have to do every month for the rest of my life, but if they know they just need to do that, but then people work in their teams, in their areas of strength, well, it just worked a lot better. People moved over to this side because they could, and they had a choice, and they could develop and learn and grow in that. So there are ways we can do this. You're not stuck. You're not in an impossible place that can't move, even if you're in an institution. I mean, like church or companies or corporate. Find out what choices you have and what changes you can make. And you're in a position where you have knowledge, skill, talent, strength. You can do this. You can make the changes that need to be made in order for not just you, but other people to flourish as well. And just have the courage to think on that, develop it, propose it, go for it. Okay, good, do it. You get to, you're gonna spend a lot of time here thinking about that, because dreams, we're talking about that, we're gonna talk about dreams tomorrow. So you're gonna have a choice to resurface a dream that you thought was gone. In another encounter, we're gonna talk about change and how to be the change and how to bring about change. So we're talking about things being different. So this idea that you're stuck in a place that you can't do anything about, let's not be there anymore. let's change that. Let's do something different.
Kind of scary.
What's that?
It's kind of scary. Like, I mean, a lot of people do make big changes at midlife. Like, some people do focus in, make good decisions to utilize what they've learned along the way to invest more into the significant realm rather than success. But other people just make changes that, go from being an engineer to having a fish and chip shop or something where it just doesn't seem, and what I'm thinking is, sometimes if you make a change because you're drained out, tired, and you just want to get out of it, you can make the wrong change.
Right.
Or you could feel stuck. I think a lot of people feel stuck.
So if you feel stuck, or if you're about to make a change that would be the wrong change, both end in bad places, which is why you're here at Crest.
Hooray, good news.
Because you don't want to be stuck, but you also don't want to just go into something that you have no business going into. You need to know who you are and know what you're built to do so that you can go do it. And the changes, if you're going to make them, are going to be ones that energize you and fulfill you so you can flourish for that second half of life. Right, and that's what we all want. And this is all part of it. So some of it's going to have to be some hard decisions. And this morning, Steve and I we were talking about how things are changing in the restaurant industry. I mean, who is crazy enough to think about selling their restaurant and going out into markets and getting little booths or what? But if you see that's the trend that's happening, then that's what you go with and you maximize that, right, Steve? And Emma? and Dan, if you're really good at something and they promote you so that you're a manager and you hate when you have to do this and blah, 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 and you wish someone else could do it, well, then that was the wrong change for you. Promotion, if that's what a promotion is, wasn't right for him. So he actually went back to the tools and he loves it. That's where he flourishes at. He's really good at that and he enjoys it. So that's where he should be. He actually made a change back. And now, you're kind of wondering where to go from here with that.
Well, because his industry is heading, it's going away to robots. So, and he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want computers. He pick and chain because he wants to work his hands.
Yeah.
I think he may end up being a chef, so.
Awesome.
He loves cooking, so.
I know a few guys.
Pardon?
I know a few guys.
You know a few guys?
All right. Any last comments? Okay, I think we've worked this one. So we will talk to you about an assignment to do with this. We'll talk about that near the end of the encounter, or what we're going to do with this. But bottom line is, you have a list of talents there that we already talked about in our Zoom call. Which of those do you believe you have the opportunity to develop? Whether they have to do with your career or not, they have to do with your life. Which ones do you want to take the opportunity to develop them, and how will you do that? So that's
I know that, because I've done a lot of listening to the videos, I've listened to all top 10 of mine. But some of the seasons, they actually do talk about how you can invest each one. So like they have some suggestions, 2 or 3 suggestions as to how to invest. So if there's one of your talents that you're like, I don't know how I will do it, they do have information there available, so.
Where is that?
I think it's at the Gallup,
The
website.
the website, yeah.
Yeah, if you go onto there, but like everyone, all of them, I think, actually, I've only listened to 4 seasons, and I think they might even be up to 8 seasons, 7 or 8 seasons that they do. And every year they like to go through all of them, and they show you how to, like, they'll tell you certain ones that I've got information. They show you what it looks like in a raw format, so where it's not really been quite developed,
Right.
or how you use it in a raw format and then versus a mature format, they call them, they separate them. But they also do talk about how you can invest in it, so, you know, making sure you communicate, from this different
Yeah.
ways, so.
Yeah. Good. So if you want to dig in that further, you can.
Especially if you have a talent that you're like, I don't understand, like Woo, if you like, yeah, I got Woo, but I have no idea what that is and what it looked like, or how I should develop it, so.
So Jillian, could you put that link in Slack so that everybody can just click it and get right there?
Yeah, sure.
Be good.
And you have to do some digging around, they've changed their website too, and you have to stuff that like, I could show you some of, like I can show you like, let's say, communication is one of mine, but you have to sometimes like just, in the search engine, just type your stuff.
Do you still need your password and everything to access that? Or do you just
No,
need to know
I
your
don't think I
strengths?
even did, I think I went onto I was like, I'm gonna go onto their coaching website, because that's who I am, I'm not a box, don't put me in the box, I'm a side. So I was like, hey, I can act like a coach if I'm looking for information, so I just went into their coaching website, actually, is how I found it.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever links you have, that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that. All right, we're good. Okay. Lunch is in 15 minutes, I guess. Back at the inn.
We're back in, is that where we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then back at the inn for lunch.
No,
Oh no, sorry.
Lunch.
You're right. Lunch is here. Lunch and dinner are here, provided by this place. Good. And so we will take